Hey YouTube, it's your boy Magnificent. So as the creator of this series of different backgrounds in the oil field, I thought, hey, what a great opportunity to be the first because you might be able to relate. I was taught growing up, you go to school, get a good grades, you can get a good job, right? And I went to actually a great school, one of the top schools in the nation in Texas. I'm from Africa, and so I grew up with an expectation that you take care of your family. And at the time, my mom, my dad, and a couple of other siblings were in Africa, and I had a lot of things going on. I always felt, as far as what the kind of culmination of all this is, that I was almost behind the eight ball. I had to do something to kind of get ahead, to get my family and everyone else taken care of. I felt this pressure. And so I did a lot of different things. I got a network marketing. I did actually decent. I started my first year, made about 30 grand. It was like about 30, then I made 40 and 50 grand, and then some other things happened, and I went to customer service. I was a banker. I actually did really well in banking. It was throughout all this process that I kind of started seeing, I had this entrepreneurial bug. It's kind of what I had. I love working with people, but not for people, right? And because I just noticed that I have a certain way of efficiency, getting things done and doing things like that. But what really made the oil field appeal to me, why it was the perfect storm, was because I had, at the time, I think we had 4 or 5 kids, and it's as if I was doing well, I guess, to everyone else financially. The money that I was making would have been great for someone else, but because I had a bigger family at the time, or bigger responsibilities, I had to do more. And I actually went to go visit my mom in Africa, and when I saw the conditions she was in, man, gosh, she wasn't eating very well, and the place she was living, it just broke me completely, and I knew that I could not change her circumstance significantly and still be able to change my circumstance. And so I didn't just have to get something better, I had to make a quantum leap. And ironically, I told you guys in some other videos that hey, I believe in God, and I tell you, he's real, because prior to this, a little bit before this, I actually had this as you guys heard before. Again, hey, you may not be religious, but hey, it is what it is. Whether you believe in science or not, the sun still comes up, rises in the east, sets in the west. So I'm gonna tell you how it is. One of the gifts of the Spirit I have is I hear the voice of God. And so I heard this voice. I was actually a banker one day. I heard this voice just tell me, go get your CDL. It was like out of the blue. And I hadn't even thought of the oil fields or nothing like that, right? And so I said, it led me and kept me safe all my life. I actually went to the DMV on my lunch break, got my CDL. Told my wife, I said, honey, I got this impression, get my CDL. Who would have thought? I started reading it, then I said, man, what am I doing? Put it away. I end up going to Africa, as I said, come back. I know I need to do something. And my wife and we just actually ran into a friend who owned a business that was about to go under. He had heard of the checks that people were making. So one of the guys that he couldn't really pay anymore went to the oil field, and he sent some pictures of his checks. And of course, because he was someone that he could believe, he went out there. And within a few months, he was in black. He was doing great. He was the lead mechanic of an entire fleet of, brand new oil field company. Ran into them, right? Coincidence. I always say coincidence is when God decides to be anonymous. And he said, sit down. We were just eating some yogurt. We sat down, and he said, hey man, you should do this. You should come out. I said, oh, I've heard. And he told me, busted all the myths that I had. And he said, you got to get your CDL. And this was back in the day where you couldn't just fog a mirror to get started. You had to have X, Y, Z. You had to have everything in the row. So I went and I got my CDL. And it was tough. How I got it, that'd be another day. But I went out and I did what I had to do. I practiced, I read the book, and I passed the test, and I passed it my first time. It was a miracle. And that was my background. I went out there, and the first thing that I did was frack. That's what he did. And so I said, you know what? I know I'm the kind of guy where if you put me with the best, and if I can model the best, I will be the best. That's just the way I am. So I went out there and I fracked, and that's kind of what I've done my whole time. I fracked for a while. Some of the other things I've done. I've been a rig mover. I've done vac trucks. I've done workover rig. What else have I done? I've done a lot of different things. I've swabbed a little bit. I've driven. I drove. Hauled pipe. I've hauled crude. The only thing that I haven't done really in the oil field that's quote unquote popular is coiled tubing, and you'll hear a little bit more about what these things are. I haven't done flowback. I haven't done wireline, but again, I was a frac hand, and it was interesting. My experience was it was like drinking out of a fire hydrant financially. I'll tell you like this: it's not really hard work. The hardest work that you'll find when working in the oil field is not the physical labor; it's actually the emotional labor. It's in essence the people you have to deal with. Some of them are bozos. It's almost like the challenge of having to deal with adult babies. That, I tell you, will be the biggest challenge. People who you think, okay, you look like a grown adult, you speak, at least the words coming out of your mouth sound like a grown adult speaking, but when you put the sentences together, you're really a baby, you know? Some of these people that have no idea of responsibility, meaning it's a blame game, you know, you'll have those challenges. But for me, when I made that money, again, not doing anything, I was doing basic things. I was making, my first year, I think I worked 6 months. I think I made $103,000 my first 6 months. I know, it was a lot of hours. And, and the reason I worked so much was because I was so shocked that they pay me what they were paying me that I said to myself, first I was pitching myself. I said, I'm gonna keep doing this before the accounting department realizes that they made a mistake, right? You know, if you had an ATM and you put in your ATM to get 20, it gave you 300, right? Or whatever. You keep pressing that ATM until they ran out of money, right? And it was just an incredible experience financially. You know, some other things occurred that, it really, really, really changed the game for me. And so, guys, there's a lot of opportunity out there, depending on your background. You don't have to be super hands-on. I will say this, though, it did help. You know, I had two different stories in the oil field. One story is I went out there with no experience. I had no mechanical background. I had, street knowledge, but I didn't know what an alternator was. I didn't know what a spark plug was. I didn't know what a bearing was. I didn't know any mechanical skill whatsoever, which you don't need to if you're willing to learn. But fast forward, my second experience in the oil field, I knew all those things, and it made a world of difference. So if you don't have that knowledge, you're good. But that's my quick background. Some of you can relate. Now, depending on where you go, you might have some challenge with people, how they see you. The truth is there is a good old boys club, right? That does exist, but you can overcome that with your work ethic. It's one of those deals where it's like a pack. If you're accepted, they'll treat you like brothers. But if you're rejected, you'll be rejected like an outsider. My experiences were night and day, and I'll just kind of share with you a little bit on as we go through what the differences in those experiences were. But that's a quick overview of my background, and I'll be sharing this. So as far as advice for people coming out, if you can get some know-how, basic things on what you do, as far as mechanics, any mechanical help would be great. I had my first experience, some people he was a politician, he was a fundraiser. He basically raised capital for his party. We've had people who had nothing to do with oil field. So you don't have to have an oil field background per se coming out. However, if you know you're coming out and you want to increase your chances of not only fitting in, but getting as high as you can in the position where you would be protected from the elements, you want to get as much knowledge as possible and mechanical background. The hardest thing, again, in oil field, I told you already, is dealing with the people. The best thing I would say is the ability to change your life. There's a mentor of mine that says it takes you 5 years to change your life from night to day. In the oil field, because of the massive flow of income, you can shorten that significantly. I'm missing 2-3 years max, right? Although I will say this, if you don't change up here and the only change that happens is in your bank account, you will soon end up in the same place that you started. So there's poverty mentality. Some folks are still broke up here, no matter how much they make, and so they end up with nothing to show for it. So biggest advice, have a goal, right? Have a certain amount of money you need, what you want to do. I don't care if you've never done this before. What is it you want to accomplish? If you have that in mind, you come in, get it done, then you can move forward, because the average lifespan of an oil field worker, you're looking at max. It's usually 3 years before things start falling apart. So that's it, guys. Again, hardest thing is, folks, have a goal and get some mechanical know-how if you can. If you can't, hey, it is what it is. But that's it, guys. I will turn it over to the next person in the series, but it can literally be the difference maker in your life, coming out and changing yourself. Where else can you go in with no experience, make a 6-figure income? 6 figures. What are you making right now? Just come in, just be willing to put your head down, get to work, that can set you up for life, you know? Make 6 figures, knock out some debt, second year, put some money away, third year, put some more money away. It'll change things for you and your family. So that's it, guys. Magnificent signing.